Yo, what's going on, boys? We are on day number 14 of reading through the book of Job, officially 2 weeks in. So just a big thanks to everyone who's been watching these videos since the start, back a few months ago. But we are going to be looking at part 3 of Job's response to his friend Zophar. So just a quick recap, we have been looking at Job as he has been kind of sharing his thoughts about, understanding that, God is this almighty creator that has created the things that we see around us in between the land and the sea and the birds and the fish, and also the things that are above us between the stars and the sun and the constellations. And he says, he's like, I understand this is true, but this is more of like a mental battle that I have. It's not that I don't believe that God has created these things. It's more of like, I don't understand that God has inflicted these thoughts on me, that he has really allowed these things to be removed in my life, and that I have had all this stuff and now it's just gone. I don't understand why this has happened. So it's another way of saying, God, I don't understand why you have removed these things from my life. What have I done to make you do this to me? And so first, I want to take a look at verses 7 through 10, where Job makes a connection to a particular object that I really want to break down into more details to try and compare it to our lives today. Job says, "At least there is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will sprout again, and its new shoots will not fail. Its roots may grow old in the soil in the ground, and its stump will die in the soil. Yet a sin of water will bud and put forth shoots like a plant. But a man dies and is laid low. He breathes his last and is no more." So, he makes this comparison to a tree. And as most of us know, we know that a tree is this, tall. And, let's picture like a pine tree here. Like a 100-foot tall pine tree, and it gets cut down right at the core, or not right at the core, right at the stem, right at the stumps, where it's only maybe about a foot tall off the ground now. And when you look inside, you can see the rings, and as most of us probably have been told growing up, is if you count the rings, you're 1, 2, 3, all the way, and you count it up, and that's how old the tree is. So these trees are decades years old if they are really thick stumps. But most importantly is most of the people think, well, I've cut down the tree, it's dead. No, it's not dead. Why? Why is it not dead? Well, because you haven't cut the source. You've cut from the physical part of it. You've cut from what you think is what you need. You've cut from what you think will kill it. You've not cut from the source. You've cut from you've cut it to make it to where it's not a problem right now. The source of the tree is in the roots, and these roots will go deep into the ground. And you may be asking, well, how does this connect to Job? Well, because he makes this connection to man, saying that a man's life, when he screws up and he is laid to rest and he dies, that's it for him. When he breathes his last, that's it. For a tree, when it's cut down, it can just regrow. It can regenerate. We humans can't regenerate. That's not how we work. We live once. When we die, that's it. We're done. So in other words, this is what I'm saying. Job is saying, your life means a lot. Your life is much more valuable than you think. So if someone ever tells you that you're not worthy, or that you're not, capable of great things, it's not true. It's not true. And if you're ever curious about, you're like, God, I don't know what I'm good at, or man, I don't know what I'm good at. Well, I promise you, God will tell you. God can tell you what you're good at. And he's not going to physically say you're good at soccer or you're good at basketball. He'll give you signs to say, hey, take a look at this. Or, hey, go talk to that person. He's not going to physically tell you this is what you're good at. He wants you to figure it out. He wants you to come up with it and be like, get that aha moment. That's what God wants. And that's what Job is going through. He's like, my life is valuable. I believe that God, created us for a reason, and that we are much more valuable than we ever could imagine. But we seem to misunderstand that, when we get cut down to the core, we fall apart and we think we can't do it. And the problem that we have isn't that we don't have all the right stuff. It's that we don't accept things when we're that low. It says in the tree that even when the tree is cut down, even with the littlest sin of water, that tree will sprout back up. And it has many effects in other different areas that can sprout new trees. But without water, in that case, without a ingredient, tree can't grow. So without God, we can't grow. Without, his presence, without his teachings, we're nothing. And that's what we often do sometimes, is we think we can fix our own problems, and we can't. You can't fix yourself with yourself. And this leads me to the second part that I want to read in this verse 13, where Job's like, well, he says, if you would hide me in the grave and conceal me till your anger has passed. If only you would set me a time and then remember me. She's like, if only you would maybe, lay me in the grave and then remember me, and I would be raised back up and be a new person. Well, it's not really how it works. It's more of a, you have to be willing to let God take control. God's not, you're never going to get mad at you to say that you are a terrible person. God made you in his image. He loves you. He's never angry at you. But he does get, confused, and he does get kind of, frustrated. Sometimes just like he can say, man, like I gave you this and you didn't do it. Like, what's going on? Like, he's never angry at you, or he's, furious, throwing his fists around. Like, he's just kind of, sad that you're not following along. But, he's always willing to help you. He's always willing to step in and say, hey, let me help you. Let me guide you. Job, just wishes that this anger would just pass on, but it can't. And, it's really, revealed that, Job's going to have to face the truth and all of his challenges, so whether that means, he faces some consequences or not. And even to our lives today, when we are put in a situation, sometimes we're meant to face the truth. And sometimes in life, when you have been hit with this, really big, digression and are cut at the core, most people often say, well, that's it. I screwed up. That's it for me. I don't have anything else to do. There's nothing I can do. Rather than let that happen, instead do this. Look back and see what happened, but also why it happened. And then that's where you ask God, okay, God, help me to understand why this happened, or why this had to happen. Help me to learn, help me to improve from this specific moment. Because what this happened was bad, and I don't want it to happen again. I don't want to fall into this sin again. I don't want to say this thing again. I don't want to, go into this place again where I'm afraid and I'm scared. I don't want to be in the dark. I want to be in the light. I want to be led by someone who is, a creative individual. And there's only one person who is good for that, and that's God himself. God is willing to lead us and help us if you let him. He's not forcing. He's not demanding. He's loving, and he's caring, and he's willing to help you whatever step of life that you're in. And I promise you, he can help you. He's helped me in many ways, with my family, my friends, with my career, with my school. And I promise you, whatever you're going through, God can lead you through it. And that is really the end of today's word. We are finished with the third response. We will look at a new individual, Eliphaz, tomorrow. It's one of Job's friends mentioned back in chapter 2. I hope you guys have had a great week so far, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, boys.